It's on the
Oh, we already started, Bryant.
oh, okay.
Okay. Hello everyone, and welcome to this 17th episode of Riichi Out to Mahjong Friends. Today we have a new guest, Darius from Columbus, Ohio. As usual, we're gonna ask him the three questions: how, or what organization he's a part of, how he got into mahjong, and what mahjong-related goals he has. Without further ado, take it away, Darius.
Thanks so much. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. I play in Columbus, Ohio. So I founded Riichi Mahjong Columbus, which is just a ragtag group of people, mostly my own friends that I've been teaching, or some new players that I've found around Columbus. And we've only been around for about, I want to say 3 months or so, but going pretty strong. I think we have about 30 members so far. How I got into it myself, I actually started playing it first through Yakuza 0.
Nice.
Yeah. So which to be clear, caused a bit of confusion when I explained that to a Japanese player, and he said, "Oh, you play with the Yakuza?" And I'm like, No, not quite. But yeah, so I learned there first, which is difficult because, as you guys know, they kind of have interesting and buggy rules. So I really honed that when I went out to SakuraCon a couple months ago and played with the Seattle Mahjong Club. They were very, very welcoming and taught me how to play with tiles, which is very helpful. And since then, I've been really trying to bring it back to Columbus. And also, actually, you, Nima, your videos on YouTube really helped me learn the game. So I wanted to thank you for that.
Oh wow,
you helped. You helped me get into the game. So thank you.
Oh, that's great to hear. I'm glad you found them useful.
I think he's the first guest to say that.
Well, yeah, most of the guests we've had, they've been playing for years and years, right? So my videos, I made them less than a year ago.
Oh, okay.
I see.
Well, perfect for me, so thank you. And my personal goals are really to try and get to competitive level myself. I'm currently getting up the ranks in Tenho. I'm almost to 3-dan. In that same vein, I'm trying to also hopefully run some local competitive style play. There are some pretty competitive players here in Columbus, some people that have been playing for upwards of 5 or 6 years. So they are kind of itching for that kind of stuff. And to get Yuiso eventually, because it's my favorite Yaku and I haven't gotten it yet.
Oh yeah, that's a tough one.
So yeah.
Oh, but yeah, after just 3 months, you're already up to 30 players, you said?
Yeah. Thankfully, like I said, I have a lot of friends that were interested in the game in the first place. So I was able to teach them. 4 grew to 8, 8 grew to 16, and it's just kind of been going from there. At our last meetup, we had 4 full tables playing, which was really exciting for me.
Oh wow, that's really great.
Thank you.
I wouldn't have expected there to be so many Ohio players.
Yeah, a lot of them are beginners, but I want to say maybe 7 or 8 of those are people that are international students. We have a lot of international students at OSU, so they've played Mahjong previously, or they're people that have been playing American Mahjong for a very long time, so they can transition pretty quickly into Riichi Mahjong as well. So we have a fair spectrum of experience in the group.
Do you guys have dedicated people who kind of teach the beginners?
Yeah.
How do you guys teach them?
I usually train people hands-on. Like I said, I train most of my friends at the public meetups. I have 2 other friends, Todd and Inu. Todd is the one that you had talked to earlier, Masa, who have been playing this game for fairly long. I don't know how long actually, but they had known it even before I met them. So we're able to help players get accustomed to it. I usually train people more hands-on, but actually just tomorrow at a local convention in Matsuri-kan, I'm hoping to run a Mahjong panel. So I'm hoping to reach out and try to teach people in a higher scale that way.
I see.
Yeah, what kind of teaching method do you usually use? Because teaching Riichi Mahjong can be really challenging.
Sure. I've had to try a couple of different ones because sometimes it'll just go over people's heads. So really, I'm just getting used to teaching people myself. So I don't fully know how to answer that question. I will usually start explaining the tiles to people because, of course, if they don't know Japanese numerals, then it's going to be a little bit more difficult. And then go through what the walls look like, how to pick tiles from the wall, and then how to complete a hand. But there are some people that are like, no, I'll just figure it out. just throw me into the game and I'll do it myself, which works for some people. So I'm slowly tuning that to try and figure out what works best for newer players.
Well, which rule set do you guys use?
Oh, sorry. I usually use Tenho rules like for more casual play, but I am trying to teach people competitive style play as well. So like Akadanash and trying to hold people accountable for trombos if I know that they've been playing for a while, and trying to teach them the correct way to call and all of that. So we still play pretty casual and pretty close to the Tenho rules. But like I said, my eventual goal is to try and run some local competitive style play too. So I want people to be prepared for that, so that hopefully we can get there someday.
Have you heard of the WRC rule?
Oh yes. Sorry. Those would be the ones that we would use for the more competitive style play. Yeah.
Okay. Nima, do you have something you want to ask?
Well, I wanted to mention that pretty much every single episode of this show, we always talk about like how to teach new players, because that's probably the most challenging thing about Mahjong outside of Japan, right? Because in Japan, there's a ton of resources for Japanese players to use to learn the game, but in North America and Europe, which are like the more commonly, or like I guess South America too, but pretty much just outside of Japan, the resources are very few and far. Excuse me. Yeah, the resources are very few, so it becomes a matter of like trying to figure out how to teach the players, especially because, like you said, they have to learn the kanji for the numbers, and then the winds. The dragons are not as bad, but it can be really tough. So
one of the main resources that I would throw at people are some of the apps, because a lot of them walk people through very, very slowly and walk them through with all of the diagrams and pictures, which is very, very helpful, especially if I don't have my set with somebody. It's kind of difficult to give someone that concept. So especially Mahjong Demon or Kimono Mahjong, which really helped me get started, because I think that they explain it very, very easily. That I always recommend those to new players too.
Yeah, I haven't played that first one that you mentioned. But I've played Kimono Mahjong, and it's very welcoming to beginners, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but on previous episodes we talked about like using the Tibet style or Suzumejong to teach new players. Masa has also done a lot of lessons recently with a couple of players using like little mini games where he'll take out some of the tiles to try and force the players to learn new yaku, like Chanta, like takes out all the 4s, 5s, and 6s, like you have to make Chanta now. Or he takes out all the even numbers, like you have to make Chitoitsu now. So like, you can't make any sequences. So we at LAPOM are still experimenting with how to teach new players, and we still don't have a good answer of the best way to teach.
Yeah, I will say that I just played 3-player a little bit. I've played it before on Tenho plenty of times, but I played it for the first time with tiles, actually with an experienced player who plays it a lot, and then a less experienced player just yesterday. And the less experienced player had a really, really good time, because they said, oh, I don't have to worry about chi, I don't have to worry about north, I have less tiles to worry about in general, so they were able to pick up more on, like you said, especially Chanta and Chitoitsu and Toi Toi. They felt more comfortable with those when normally they wouldn't go for those kind of yaku. So yeah, so the methods that you're explaining, I saw a little bit at Sakura-con as well. So yeah, I think that those would be very helpful. I need to start trying those out myself.
Yeah, Sanma is a little bit tricky. It's yeah, it does take away a lot of things that the new players wouldn't have to worry about. Like it takes away most of the Manzu tiles, so even if you don't memorize them, you're like, the 1 and the 9 look different, so you're good. But,
right.
Okay.
And
that's true.
And a lot of yaku just kind of fall into your hand, so you don't have to worry as much about making yaku. The game goes a lot faster. It's easier to win. It's more exciting for sure.
And also, I think the big yaku, so it's going to be the practice for counting like how many han you have.
Oh yes, that's true. Like in Sanma, Mangan is like a small hand, so you don't really
Right.
have to worry about counting fu because you usually just get Mangan or above.
Yes, and especially counting fu is something that a lot of people in the club are really struggling with. So trying to teach that level of scoring to people, I feel like that's one of the last big hurdles to make someone like an independent player. So that's something that I'm trying to teach people more and more recently.
That's good. And also we are experimenting what? Like no counting full Mahjong. We never did it before, but there's like only counting full, I mean, Han to get the points. And then the one Han is like 1,000, and two Han's like 2,000, and three is like 4,000. And then the fourth is 8,000. And then go above the Mangan, and it's like make it just simple. But you could learn the games, how it going.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's a very good idea, especially to have people memorize some of the earlier the point amounts for like the 1 and 30 or 2 and 30 or 4.
Yeah. So I think there's gonna be like divided by the steps, but each step with the mini games, I think you could catch some part of the margin, and then at the end all combined with the calculation and everything.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Going back to just the club itself, how often do you guys play?
We normally play once every month, but it's just this next two Wednesdays from now, we'll be starting our bi-monthly meetings. Since we had such a good turnout at the last one, I'm hoping to get to play twice a month. We play at a board game cafe, who are already really excited about us coming in there because, of course, we bring them more people, and people buy more drinks and all of that. But then I also, host like meetups at my own house as well, with some of my closer friends. So those I can sometimes get up to weekly, which is very, very good.
Can I just also ask, how fast do you guys play one Hanchan? Basically, one round. Yeah.
At a public meetup, probably closer to 3 hours to a Hanchan. Yeah. Because me and some of the more experienced players will kind of walk around and try to guide people through, and especially offer advice as people need them, or help people with scoring and all of that. So like I said, our main focus is trying to make people into more independent players. So we can give them the basics and let them start to go, and then give them little tweaks along the way. But that can sometimes make it pretty long for a Hanchan.
Yeah, but most important is having fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Nima-kun, probably you could give them the tips for how to speed up the game.
Oh well, there's
not with the Brian way,
No, wait,
Brian
Okay.
always rush. So.
Oh yeah, Brian.
Okay. don't rush, but speed up.
Yeah, like little things like discarding a tile before you rearrange your hand after drawing a tile, and the way in which you call, like revealing the or making your declaration, revealing the tiles, discarding so the next player can go ahead with their turn, and then picking up the tile that you called. Little things like that over the course of a Hanchan could speed up the game quite a bit.
Definitely, and something I've found that that slows down a lot is people that want to call a lot, which of course is a pretty beginner kind of thing to do, wanting to call every time that you see the opportunity. So trying to discourage that a little bit too helps the speed, I find.
Oh, and also it's when I first started playing with my friends a few years ago, one of the problems that we had that made the game so slow is that no one would really pay attention unless it was their own turn. And
yeah,
and that's like a habit you can pick up from other games, right? If it's not your turn, you don't have anything to do, you can go on your phone or whatever. And then in Mahjong, you have to be constantly paying attention. But if you don't have that like habit to be looking at the board all the time, watching what the other players are doing, being ready if you need to do something like make a call, or just so you don't like take 5 seconds to realize, oh, it's my turn, I better draw a tile. That can be a problem for newer players or players who have those bad habits from other games.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I can say that having come from playing a lot of other board games too, I definitely see that happens. So a question to you, I guess, on that, like how much strategy do you try to teach new players? I've sometimes kind of shied away from that, trying to tell them what to do and what is best, what to do and what not to do, because some people like to just kind of figure it out their own. But by giving them that strategy, like you said, it'll help them pay attention and understand what's going on a little bit more. So how do you approach that?
Okay, that's a very good question. So, when I made my video series earlier, I didn't really want to add any like strategy to it. I'm sure you saw, it's just like the Yaku, the rules and stuff. But then at the end, I figured I should tack on a little bit of strategy, kind of recommend Riichi Book 1. So when you're teaching strategy to like completely new players, I think you should cover tile efficiency for sure, because that's one of the most important like and fundamental parts of Mahjong. If you don't have tile efficiency down, you really can't play at any sort of a competitive level. And
Nima-kun,
yes,
did you talk about the Suzume-jan thing?
I briefly mentioned it.
Oh, very good. So right now I'm at the Little Tokyo with like how many tables full? Like 4 tables full already. Teaching like very beginner American players today, and then we're trying the Nima's the Suzume-jan thing, but not using the regular margin tiles, and it works very good. We're playing with a 5 tile, 6 to make complete. Looks everyone's having fun. They're excited. That is why my back sound is a little bit too loud.
I'm glad it's going well.
Yes, but it works pretty good for the beginner players.
Can you explain that just a little bit more? Because I don't think I've played like that before. I'm curious about it.
So today I'm making like special rules, but maybe Nima could explain a little bit better.
So you said that was like with 5 tile hands with 6 to complete, just like Suzume-jang, right?
Yeah. I think you should tell them that there's only one suit.
Yeah, and then no atama.
Yes, so in Suzume-jang, which is kind of like a mini version of Mahjong, you have to make a hand with just 2 sets of 3. So there's no Janto, no pair. And the Yaku are a little bit different, and the Dora works a little bit different. But essentially, you just have to make a hand of 6 tiles to win, and you need a certain amount of points. In Suzume-jang, there's a bunch of Dora. There's like 13 Dora plus the normal Dora, so it's the scoring's a little bit different than normal Mahjong. But you basically just get points, and this kind of combines the Tibet method, which teaches just how to finish a hand. Maybe you pick up some efficiency along the way with keeping in mind the score of your hand, having a minimum score that you have to actually reach to be able to win a hand. So it kind of mixes these two a little bit, so it gets a little bit closer to Mahjong, but it's still a little bit it's a lot easier, I guess, to comprehend for beginners. So yeah, it's just one suit, and then there's 2 different honor tiles. In Suzume-jang, it's Hatsu and Chun, so you can get like the Uiso, because it's Sozu and Hatsu. But yeah, with normal Mahjong tiles, you can just do that, of course. You could split a Mahjong set into 3 smaller sets, right? You have 3 different suits, and then you can use 6 of the 7 honor tiles to complement them.
Cool. Thank you very much for explaining that. I appreciate it.
It's just something we're experimenting a little bit with. So still working on it, but it should be useful to teach new players.
I think one part that also shows the new player feature of Mahjong is that your two melts can evolve with each other. Like they can change shape. Like what you think is a straight can turn into a triplet, and vice versa.
Oh, yeah, that's that's not as much a factor in Suzume-jang, where you just have 2 triplets. Yeah. If you have to include like a Janto, right, then it becomes more relevant, because you're like, oh, I have this triplet with a tile next to it. This could be like a sequence and a pair, or it could just be a triplet and a pair, like depending on what fills in, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, in Mahjong, it's a lot easier. You don't have to worry about complex weights. Like the worst you're gonna get is like a 3-sided weight if you have like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? That's the worst it's gonna be.
Yeah, but I do find that a lot of newer players, they will end up with a kanchan, and they won't end up with those 2-sided weights because they won't really be thinking about that. So I do think that would be a really good way to teach people the multi-sided weights. That's very cool.
I have a question while we were still on the topic of you were asking how to somewhat beginner strategies beyond the rules.
Yeah.
And then we talked about tile efficiency, right? I just wanted to ask Darius, what does that term mean to you?
Looking at what you have in your hand and what you need to get rid of so that your next draw is going to be as efficient as possible. I don't know if that's the right answer, but that's what it means to me.
No, I don't think it's a unified term.
Okay, I see. Yeah, especially, I'm trying to remember what the book was. It wasn't Riichi book 1. I'm reading that one right now. There was a long essay that a pro had written that Aldwin just put in the Chicago group a couple months ago that talked about tile efficiency for a very long time. And really that kind of opened my eyes to a ton of new strategies that I hadn't fully considered. Something that really blew my mind the most, I guess, was discarding a 1 if you have a 4 or a 9 if you have a 6. Under a lot of different circumstances that can really increase your tile efficiency. And honestly, I think that that's been helping my game a lot. Just something very, very small like that has really increased the efficiency of my draws. So, yeah, I do see the value in it.
I see. Because I just wanted to explain why I even bother asking this question. Because the original phrase is called like pai. Do you read Japanese, by the way?
Not too much. I'm going to Tokyo in about 2.5 weeks, so I'm trying to learn a lot.
I think the original phrase is pai-ri, which should be literally translated as like tile logic, right? Can you back me up on this, Nima?
I don't know the Chinese. That's your area of expertise.
Okay. It says tile logic, but that doesn't necessarily spell efficient, and it's more encompassing. Encompasses more ideas than just making efficient hands, I think. Because whenever I read it, like that's what it's talking about. It's about how to build your hand with the point value in consideration.
Okay, so hold on. I just looked it up, and the Japanese for paifu,
pai-ri.
It is, well, in Japanese it's literally just tile like sheet, like a sheet of music or something.
No. I'm talking about another phrase.
Which phrase?
Okay, guys. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I will bring the Mariko-san soon, like 3 minutes. Is that good?
Okay. That's fine with me.
Okay. Hold on 1 second. Let me go grab her.
Okay, so anyway, you were saying it's different in Chinese then, right? No,
paifu is the replay.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like the term they use to study Mahjong, like the theory behind it. It's more like tile theory.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just saying. But then translated into English as tile efficiency. On Osamuko, at least. But anyways, that's just why I asked this question.
Sure. Yeah. That's very interesting, though. That the idea is that there's more to it than just looking at the tiles. Yeah.
Okay, guys, sorry about that. Here's Mariko-san. So she's from. Okay, let her introduce herself. She has like tons of like interesting stories. So let's take it away.
Hey everyone! Hello.
Hello.
Hi! Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be on this. Are we talking to millions of people or 3?
5.
Maybe in the single digits.
Oh, okay. We're over in Little Tokyo, in Los Angeles, currently learning how to play Mahjong with a group of beginners. Masa and Junko-san from the Los Angeles Pride of Mahjong are teaching us how to play Mahjong. I'm currently like in a little like alley corner trying to find the quietest place possible to speak to you guys.
Are you having fun?
Oh my gosh, I've never played, and even before Crazy Rich Asians came out, I really wanted to learn. But now having seen that movie, I've seen it 3 times, and I don't want to spoil anything for anyone, but there's a really like amazing mahjong scene in that movie that you don't quite understand unless you learn how to play.
I see. Were they playing Riichi Mahjong? I don't. But
Sorry, say that again.
were they playing? What style were they playing in the Crazy Rich Asians movie?
I don't know what style they're playing in Crazy Rich Asians. I think they're playing Chinese style though. I don't know. I don't know. Obviously I don't know mahjong well enough yet to tell. I didn't even know there were multiple ways to play mahjong. I thought it was like chess.
Marison, did you start today?
Yes. So I am working in LA County to support small business and entrepreneurship with Japanese immigrants and Japanese Americans. And part of what I do is work with other organizations that are trying to improve community and relations between different communities of Japanese and Japanese Americans. And so as part of that programming, we've been organizing 2 months of events that center around culture and arts that basically bring together people who are Japanese American, who are like multiple generations, and also first generation Japanese immigrants. And one of the best ways to do that outside of like music or art is always games. And so when Masa was introduced to me by one of the business owners here that he could teach a bunch of beginners how to play mahjong, we were like, yes, let's do it. So we have beers and sushi and enka music playing in the background. And now we're learning how to play mahjong for, I think, almost everyone in the room, with the exception of maybe one person, has never, ever sat in front of a mahjong board before.
No, that's amazing.
It is. And it's a really good mix. I mean, it's like probably half the room is Japanese American, but Japanese American like second, third generation. I'm mixed. My dad's American, my mom's Japanese, but I grew up in Japan. And the other half is like a bunch of white people. So it's a really interesting opportunity from people of all different backgrounds to learn about the culture and and it's kind of funny as well. I don't know. Do you know who Jen Barr is by any chance?
I have heard of her.
Oh, okay. I went to university with Jen Barr. So for people that don't know who Jen is, Jen, so funny. So I went to school with her at Jochi Daigaku, or Sophia University. And she is this itty bitty, like tiny white girl, basically, who speaks Japanese probably better than people born and raised in Japan. And she is a mahjong fanatic. And she came to Japan like to go to school, but really spent every waking minute she had like playing mahjong in all these like seedy back parlors, and eventually got picked. My understanding of the story was, people noticed that they're like showing up to play mahjong and like drawing all these mahjong professionals. And she's now like a pretty famous TV personality in Japan. She still lives there, has a baby, really successful. She's written a book, and so I'd always like she's a friend of mine, so I'd always like seen like been a peripheral of the mahjong world in Japan, but never learned how to play.
Nima, do you know Jen Barr?
I've heard of her, yes.
Oh.
Yeah, she's pretty well known. She has a English language book out that's about mahjong for beginners, and I think it's kind of like a pretty unique book. It's on Amazon. It's kind of like, I think it's a pretty. There's not a lot of. I realized when I was preparing for this class, there's not a lot of English language books about learning mahjong, unfortunately. Masa was
very true.
Talking about that.
Yeah. So I've heard like Masa has been trying to work on one. He was good enough to bring us some today. I think after today, I'm actually going to call Jen and ask her to send me some copies of her book for the people here to kind of take a look at. But yeah, it's really kind of frustrating that there's no there's no books available. And even before taking this class, I was trying to like find online, but online directions are kind of hard to understand for a game like this.
Yeah, the resources are they're pretty few. It's tough.
But I think that speaks a lot to really, especially what you guys are doing on LAPOM and people like you and the Osamu blog, people that are trying to bring it more over to America. There's a lot of people working really, really hard to make this almost like kind of underground renaissance of it. And it's like very slowly reaching the mainstream, which I think is very cool. But yeah, it's really encouraging to see that there's such a vibrant subculture around it and so many people willing to help each other out and sponsor each other and all of that. So I think it's really incredible what's going on in America right now.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, Masa was showing me the LA Pride of Mahjong site that they're currently building on Wix, and it was really nice to kind of see the gameplay laid out in such a comprehensive manner, and also to have like, you know, they're doing tournaments out here. They're really welcoming to beginners, and you know, there's even a lot of people who are Japanese speakers who don't know how to play, and they want to like learn a game other than like chess or checkers, because in Japan people still do play mahjong. Question for you guys: have you had people around you since Crazy Rich Asians came out like ask you about mahjong because they know you play?
Not for me, at least. But also, I'm in Columbus, Ohio. So.
Oh, you're really battling against all kinds of cultural norms out there. Oh, good
yes, I sure am.
That's awesome. How did you become interested in mahjong? Columbus, Ohio. I mean, what do you guys have out there? Isn't that where like Forever 21 is from, or clothing line, right?
No, yeah, you're right. Yeah, the limited brands headquarters are right here.
Okay.
But no, I got into it from video games, to be real, as like a mini game on the side of another video game. And I'd always had an interest, actually, because I have Jewish heritage. So my grandmother played it. I mean, of course, she played American Mahjong, but you know, first thing I did was I asked her for her set, and of course, she didn't use it anymore. So, I started practicing with her set first, and that's how I really got into it. But you know, the whole like Jewish American Mahjong side of it, I think, is a really interesting story, but that's for a different podcast, I guess.
we should get a special episode on that.
Right?
That history sounds insane, but that's wild. She still had. How old is her Mahjong set? Like, you're literally playing with like an antique Mahjong set then.
Oh yeah, it was just full of cigarette burns and everything. Like you could tell this thing was very well loved. Yeah, so I started
very authentic.
Oh yeah, that's the one that I kind of like use for the new players because it still has the numerals on it, the Roman numerals on it for all of the kanji characters.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you know, I didn't realize that there was these different types of sets, like for non-kanji reading people or Chinese character reading people and people that could read it. But I guess it's kind of like, you know, like any game. After a while, you kind of, because I know kids who play all these like Japanese video games. They can't read a word of Japanese, but they've somehow figured out how to play a game that doesn't come in English yet. So I feel like Mahjong could be the same thing, right?
Yeah, and I'm also pretty involved in the cosplay community around here, and there are conventions around here, especially anime conventions. So I think that there is a real appetite for that kind of stuff around here.
Right.
There's a foundation of the subculture, so I think it's pretty easy to build upon that. And I mean, that's where I met Seattle area Mahjong. That's where I met the Chicago area Mahjong. Was from different conventions in these areas. So I think there is a good foundation and a good resource to be tapped for that.
Right. Yeah, no, I was so when we first decided to kind of do this, we didn't want to like make it like a weekly thing. We kind of just want to test the waters with it. And there actually is like a weekly Mahjong night already in Little Tokyo, but it's kind of dominated by senior citizens that know what they're doing. So it's not very friendly to like younger people who don't know how to play or beginners in general. So when Masa and I first started talking, you know, one of the things that Tetsu, and I have to give a shout out to Tetsu at Anime Jungle, like Tetsu was like, you know, Masa's really good with like taking things step by step. And so we thought, okay, we'll do a 3-part series over 2 months, like every other week, 3 Thursdays, see if people come out to all 3, and then do like a tournament at the very end, and have like, you know, people who are more experienced and less experienced all kind of mixed together. And if people like that, then maybe they'll, you know, join Los Angeles Pride of Mahjong or other organizations across the country and sit and, you know, carry that love into the rest of their life. And it seems like tonight we're kind of successful with that.
It is innately a social game, right?
Yeah.
So I think that lends itself well.
No, definitely. And I don't know how you guys learn how to play, but the way we started today is, you know, they only gave us 5 tiles rather than 13, which is probably the best idea. Well, I was like, wait, we only get 5? They're like, we're just starting you off with 5. Like, we're not going to keep it simple. And I'm like, wait, are we, everyone, so it's so funny. When we first started playing, everyone wanted to build a wall. And Masa was like, no wall, no wall.
That's the most fun, though, is shuffling all the tiles.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, no, because just for learning purposes, we had to show each other. I actually am going to get back in because I think we're like getting to the next step. Are there any last questions that I could answer, or am I going to connect with you guys again in the future?
Oh, I'm sure we'd love to have you on again in the future. Once you've gotten a bit more experience, you can tell us about how far you've come.
Oh, yeah, you know, maybe someday I'll get to the point where I can beat a crazy rich Asian. So, all right, well, thanks so much, you guys, for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. And if you guys ever make it out to Little Tokyo, please join our Mahjong night.
Oh,
Thank you.
all right.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice to meet you, too. I'm looking forward to listening to how crazy I sound this podcast later on.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I'm going to pass you back to Masa now.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you. Okay, Masa's back.
Hi.
Welcome back.
You should invite her to our club.
Yes, we will.
So
I hope she shows up.
are they going to start doing regular events there?
We don't know yet. So if this the meetup, I don't know, should I call it meetup? The meetup getting like excited and get popular, then she says she wants to run like more frequently. So we might help them.
Oh, that's good.
We need to make a LAPOM a franchise.
But today, seriously, a quick, like full table. We set the full table. It's all full.
And no one's bored. And no one's bored, right?
Hmm?
No one's bored.
No one's what?
Everyone's having fun.
Seems like.
Oh, that's good to hear.
She touched on something that I wanted to ask you guys about, if you don't mind me.
Mhm.
Question real quick. So she had mentioned that she had a friend that went to Japan and started playing in mahjong parlors.
Yes.
I am very interested in doing that. However, I know that, well, not all of them are going to be very welcoming to foreigners, which is understandable, and that the culture can be a little bit difficult to penetrate. Would you, the one that I was planning on looking at was Shibuton in Shibuya, which apparently has a rap for being a little bit nicer to foreigners. But I was curious as to what advice you might give a foreigner who's trying to play Riichi Mahjong in Japan, or if maybe I should not do that.
That's a good question. We had a previous guest. They went to the Janso in Japan, which is mahjong parlor, and some of the parlor welcome the foreign players, and then most of them they don't, because. Nima-kun, can you explain a little bit?
Well, I've never been to Japan, so this is all secondhand knowledge. But as I understand it, if you go to a mahjong parlor, for the first time, they're gonna like kind of test you to make sure you'll fit in there. So they'll make sure you know how to play. They'll see how your manners are, and stuff like that, right? So if you can't speak Japanese, that's gonna be a large impediment to being able to play in most mahjong parlors.
Yeah, of course, understandable.
Yeah, because it's not that they don't want you there; it's that you would cause problems with the other customers, right? If you can't communicate with them.
Right, and I'm sure there is, a very efficient system of these kind of things because, of course, they're running a business. All of that.
Hmm.
And that's another reason we try to bring those the Japanese manners or the information to like new website we are making. And then since we're approaching to the Japanese players by the Twitters, it's getting better and better. And hopefully that kind of culture will get changed. And then welcoming to some of the foreign players to some of the Janso. Most likely, like no gamble Mahjong parlor.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not looking to gamble.
So not yet, because the website is not launched yet. But we're making plan to start asking some of the non-gamble Mahjong parlor, which is Tenko Mahjong Dojo, to ask you guys welcome into like foreign players, and then we make the Janso list so that you guys could visit whenever you guys went to Japan, like which Osaka or the Tokyo.
That's very cool. Yeah. Have you heard of Shibutong in Shibuya
Yes.
before?
I think the Daniel from Pale Mail was talking about. But guess what?
Okay.
I'm a Japanese, but I've never been to the Mahjong parlor in Japan.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
Yes,
Wait, what?
because
Am I the only one who has been?
I learned the Riichi here in the United States.
Oh, interesting.
That means I'm not in the gamble base, so I will qualify for the M League. No, just kidding. Just kidding.
Nice.
You have to be part of a professional organization. We need to make LAPOM a professional organization.
Right.
Then they can draft you.
Yeah, we will beg them. MV, please. But hopefully, 5 years later, 10 years later, all other countries' Mahjong level catch up, and then knowledge, manner-wise, the tactics, logics. Once it catch up, and then I think in the future that's possible to get like more pros producing from United States or the Europe or the China or everywhere into that kind of the big Mahjong league. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, especially with WRC having been here, I would assume, I don't know because I wasn't playing it back then in 2017, but I would assume that kind of put America on the map. Is that something that happened, or?
We don't know.
Oh,
We don't know, but we hope.
Sure.
Or we start the new stuff from the United States. That's another way. That's why we need to make more Mahjong friends.
Oh, right. And speaking of which, I saw that there was the North American Open. I'm sure that you guys have talked about that before. But that's a very exciting opportunity as well. I'm hoping that there are some international players that come out for that. Trying to get that intersectionality between the American side of Riichi Mahjong and then especially some of the European side, which I know is very, very competitive. I'm sure will help us to all really play together.
That's an interesting point. I don't know if anyone from Europe would come out to the tournament in New York though, because they have their own ranking system.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I knew that it was very competitive. I didn't. They had their own ranking too.
Yes, they are. From my opinion, from the WRC experience, I didn't play, but I went to the weekend. But seems like I'm not quite sure in the Europe information, but they do have lots of tournament going on, and then they are used to in the tournament style. So it's not like tenho style. The tenho style is like good for the league, like with the number of games, right? But eventually it makes you the really good player. But the logic way, what was it? Rena from the Poland. I watched her game. She's very smart, but she says she's JPML channel like the Nima does, and looks like they're focusing on more tournament style. That's why it's a little bit different style, but they are very strong.
Yes, as far as I know, in Europe they have Mahjong tournaments pretty much every weekend. Like, of course, Europe's a very big continent, so you're not going to go to every single one. But I know they also have that their format is very similar to WRC rules. It's just EMA rules. There's a few rule changes, but overall it's pretty much the same. And the tournament format they usually don't have like a playoff at the end. The players just play for points, and after however many rounds, they just walk away with whatever points they collected over the course of the tournament. And then that all goes into a big ranking system. And I believe, although I'm not 100% sure on this, that that ranking system is used to see who gets invited to like their continental championships.
Yep. So we USA needs to prepare.
Right, we need our own ranking system now.
Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting that it's so hierarchical and codified. I didn't know that it was like that over in Europe. Very cool.
Okay, so before like maybe 15 minutes ago, we were talking about the question you asked, what kind of strategy to teach to beginners, yes?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so we kind of touched on tile efficiency. I think that's a very important thing to teach beginners. I already said it's a fundamental part of Mahjong. If you don't have it down, you can't really improve. And it's also something that's easily like quantifiable. Like you can just count. Like so I guess I should kind of go into what like the definition of tile efficiency is. Like for a very, very simple explanation would be playing in a way that maximizes your chance of reducing your shanten and getting to tenpai. So you can quantify that very easily. You just see whatever tile you discard from your hand, you see what's the amount of tiles that you could accept into your hand that reduces your shanten count, which gets you closer to tenpai. And Tenho has a very nice calculator, tenho.net/2, that you can use, the number 2, tenho.net/the number 2. You can just type in a hand, and it'll tell you all the discards that will reduce the shanten of the hand, and it will show how which tiles the resulting hand will be able to accept, and the number. So in that way, tile efficiency is a thing you can teach to beginners because it's easily quantifiable, and there is a right or wrong answer. It's not going into anything like intermediate or advanced where it's a little bit more vague, like push pull or anything like that. And another thing might be defense, like just very, very basic defense, like just like Genbutsu, Suji, stuff like that. Nothing too crazy. But the main thing I think is tile efficiency.
Yeah, I do try to explain Genbutsu the same time as Riichi, because I don't know, it'd be very easy for someone to get very used to calling Riichi all the time if their compatriots always deal into their hand. So I always try to introduce those at the same time to make sure that the other people playing at the table know how to defend against someone once they declare Riichi. Because same thing, I don't want a beginner to want to declare Riichi every single time that they get into tenpai, because that's not going to be helpful to them either.
Oh, but it's not. It's better for them to declare Riichi than not in most cases, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I do agree with that. But if someone is just going for like Riichi no Mi over and over again, that might not be as helpful. If they don't want to build anything, if they just want to build for Riichi no Mi.
That, I mean, depending on the rule set, we've kind of discussed this before, but depending on the rule set,
cool.
Riichi no Mi is like fine, but that brings up another thing with teaching. One of the things that we've discussed earlier about teaching is not teaching the Yaku Riichi until the very end, so that you kind of force the players to make Yaku in their hand and not just rely on Riichi, because if you teach it first, they can jump into the game. They don't have to know any other Yaku. They could just keep their hand closed in Riichi, but that becomes kind of a crutch.
Yeah, so maybe I'm poisoning the well a little.
Oh, I mean that's the standard way to teach it though, because
okay, good.
Yeah, like
as long as I'm...
It is called Reach Mahjong after all.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and and it like I said, it does let them jump right into the game. They don't have to know much else. You can teach them maybe a few other Yaku, but if they've got Riichi, they can sit down at a table and play, and have a good time with 3 other players. It takes a lot more effort to teach them the other way without Riichi, but the ending payoff is probably greater.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So, you asked what kind of strategy to teach beginners, because you weren't sure, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
What have you tried so far?
Defense mainly. Outside of that, I've been really mostly focusing on teaching people Yaku. So when we get to talking about specific Yakus, like I will focus on ones that are more about the triplets. So like if people are looking for Tortoy or Sun Encore or not Su Encore yet, I don't necessarily teach the Yakumen too early. But I'll teach them the correct strategies for that, like counting the different tiles that are out in other people's discards to know what you're going to get next. Or if there's a day that I'm focusing more on the straights, like Sanzoku or Ipeiko, then I will talk more about the efficiency with like 2-sided, 3-sided, 4-sided weights. But again, it all kind of comes down to what the appetite for the players are. So sometimes, they'll sit down, they'll be like, hey, teach me some new Yaku, I want to go. Sometimes I've run into a lot of players that say, I just want to play, I'm going to go home and figure this all out myself. So I guess that's kind of the reason that I ask, is that it's been hard for me to find out what is the most important, or what I think is the most important, when I've been dealing with people that have very different ideas of what it is to learn. To answer your question, sorry for rambling a bit, I usually try to teach them strategies specific to the Yaku, because I've been holding teaching the Yaku at a higher priority than teaching the strategies. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and you don't have to apologize.
Okay.
This is you're our guest. You can speak as much as you want.
But we also don't know what's right.
Yes, there's no really right or best way to teach Mahjong. It's such a complicated game.
But we should test it out like so many ways, and then figure out like what's the better way, and still we can like add it up like more stuff.
Yeah, and with the varying levels of players who want to learn, like, because there's people who have like never touched Mahjong at all, but they want to learn. But then there's people who are like, oh, I played Chinese Mahjong, so I know everything except the scoring system for Japanese, right? So it's when you have to deal with players of such varying degrees of experience, that's just adds another challenge to teaching.
Yeah, and also this is from my experience, but once they learn, and they could make a big Yaku, and when they win out the hands, they'll get happy. Of course, there's going to be the situation in the next step, but as long as they make a winning hand and then be happy, get excited, and they don't quit the game, they could still fight through the game. So.
Oh yeah. I think actually player retention should be the #1 priority for many clubs.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And talking about making hands, funny. One of my friends just yesterday when we were playing 3-player, they were, oh my gosh, they went out and they were 2 away. Just their pair was honors. They were 2 away from Chinroto, and I was like, oh my god, like my heart stopped for a second. I was like, hey, check it out. Good job. But they had no idea, and so they got really excited that they were doing really well, even though they didn't know it. So yeah, I do think that that's kind of a magical moment when you're able to see that someone knows what they're doing, even if they don't know that they know what they're doing. If they know this looks like a good hand, it must be something good. So yeah, I think that that's kind of a magical moment.
Okay, is it about time?
We have a few minutes left. Is there anything else that we needed to cover?
I think we covered everything we need. So Darius is going to New York tournament?
Maybe. I'm hoping.
Maybe.
I'm hoping. We'll see if travel plans work out.
Yeah, the traveling is like a lot of work. One day, let's play together. We have
Oh,
a tournament
absolutely.
in Los Angeles. We have a tournament in San Francisco is coming up. Next year, Dallas, Texas, Florida. I hope Chicago Q is going to run the tournament, or New York. It's getting everywhere. So
Chicago,
one
I
day.
will definitely be there.
Yeah,
Maybe someday Columbus. Maybe someday I can host you
do
guys.
it. Let's do it. But for the website idea, with that one that we're making, it's not only for us; it's for the U.S. margin clubs. We need to start doing more, like I don't know, like advertising, to reach out more players, so that they could find their nearest place that you could play margin. That's the main purpose.
Yeah,
Oh, right.
my main goal for that has been, because I go around to a lot of anime conventions, I'm trying to take this kind of on the road. So not only, showing them, hey, if you're in Columbus, Ohio, I have this cool club, but also saying, here are all these different clubs, so that, if I'm running a panel in Chicago or whatever, here's the Chicago area modern club. And of course, those guys have a very good presence at all of those Chicago clubs too. So wherever I go, I hope to take Mahjong with me and run panels at all of these different conventions, and then hopefully get people excited so they can play with the local clubs.
So Darius, you watched the Saki?
No, I watched Akagi.
Okay, good.
That's
so you're,
my kind of,
you're the boys side.
Yeah. Right.
But if you have a time, watch Saki, and they have a team tournament, like team battle margin stuff. And then we are holding the next February for the team tournament in LA. So if you have 3 or 4 players and you could make a team, you could come to LA.
That would be very exciting.
Yup. And then we're going to do the broadcasting too.
When did you say that was?
We're going to do the broadcasting for the games.
When is the tournament going to be?
Yeah, February, President Day weekend.
Okay, good to know. I would love to come out there for it.
I hope something like everyone enjoys and get like more bigger groove. So if you have any idea, please let us know, and then you can also write your own article to our new website to give us like a mini update for your club. Start doing some kind of events. It's always welcome to contact us. We will help to post it. But if there's no access, then there's nothing. So we need everyone's help.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. And again, I know I've said this, I'm so really do the all of the hard work that you guys are doing to foster the American Mahjong scene. Reaching out to people like me all the way out in Columbus, Ohio, just get the word out and try to get us all kind of on the same page and socialize. So thank you guys so much, really.
So that's gonna be the end of show, and I have last question for Darius. Nima, help me too, okay? We are Mahjong friends. Darius?
Are you our Mahjong friend?
Absolutely.
Yes, we met another friend.
All right, so when Masa asked that question of our guest, that is the end of the show. So thank you everyone for watching, and thank you Darius for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. You have a good night.
Have a good night. Thank you very much.
Good night, everyone. Thank you for watching.